The Rockwell timepiece says it's time. So come on in, stay a while. It's time to get coached up with another edition of the Coach Scott Field Show. That's right. I am blessed that Rockwell is a proud program sponsor, and I'm also a brand ambassador. If you have interest in Rockwell, go to rockwelltime.com, use the code COACH20, and receive a 20% discount on any of their outstanding watches, merchandise, or anything there on the site. And during December, outstanding holiday gifts there. Like and follow the Coach Scott Field Show on our Facebook page. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Smash that subscribe button if you would. If you're listening to us in podcast form, my buddy and I, Dave, say, turn that knob up. We're about to put that flavor in your ear. And don't forget, you can watch us on DBTV Monday through Friday. Check those times, where we are blessed to be able to be seen in over 300 million households around the globe. Also on CSTV, Wednesdays at 7 p.m., and also the Rewind Sports 60 out of Chicago. Appreciate your continued support. So without further ado, let's welcome in my man, Dave Yeast, St. Louis Amateur Baseball Hall of Fame, College Baseball Hall of Fame, NCAA Distinguished Service Award. David, what a fascinating career you've had, and I know it's not over.
I hope it's not over, Scott, but that's the way you make it out. I think I should just call it a day, man.
No, it's, you know what, it's thrilled to have you as a part of the show. Want our viewers to have the opportunity to kind of get to know you. And I mean, here we are, just a couple follically challenged Midwesterners who now live out here in the state of Utah.
Absolutely. Blessed to be follically challenged. I wouldn't have it any other way. But yes, I moved out from St. Louis, Scott, 2009. I relocated to Utah. I'd always wanted to live out here. I had skied out here and was trying to find a way to live out here. And finally, I finally figured it out in 2009.
There you go. And see, I've been here since about 2005 is when I met Kim. And
Okay.
coming from that flat Midwest country to being in these mountains where it's snowing beautiful today. And oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I don't think you can get any place better.
No, Scott, we say all the time, we just drive around town. I drove to Walmart today and I said, can you believe I live here? Or we go to Home Depot. I come out of Home Depot. I mean, a normal Saturday, just running errands, and I look up and I see the beautiful mountains, and I'm like, man, I'm a lucky man, because I can't do Home Depot well, but I do appreciate it, absolutely.
Oh, I think it's awesome. So, Dave, I mean, I think it's fascinating. Your career and your journey and the steps in your career. Where did the interest come from for you? I mean, of course, both football and baseball, being, a referee and umpiring.
Sure.
And so take us through that. Where did that passion really come from, my friend?
We don't have 10 hours here, Scott. I'll do my best. Um, so I grew up in St. Louis, like you said, and I grew up in a suburb called Kirkwood, Missouri, a
Oh, yeah.
suburb of St. Louis, and my next door neighbor was my idol growing up. His name is Bill Mulder, and Bill was an All-American basketball player. He was a point guard for Kirkwood High School. We had a really good basketball program, a couple of state championships in there. So whatever Bill did, I wanted to do. And Bill was in the summer, he was a youth baseball umpire. So I was playing baseball as a kid coming up, and Bill was umpiring. And so I thought, well, my gosh, I've got to do whatever Bill does. So at the age of 15, I started umpiring youth baseball. So I'd either play a 6 o'clock game and then quickly change into my little umpire uniform and go umpire the 8 o'clock games. Or if I had an 8 o'clock game, I'd try and sneak in the 6 o'clock game. So that's where it started. And I don't know what clicked, but something clicked. I was a decent player. Played in high school and a little bit in college, but that wasn't ever going to be my path. But I had the passion for the sport, for baseball. Played all three sports in high school, but My passion was definitely baseball. And so I stuck with it. The Kirkwood Corey League is where I started. And so within a summer or two, that was my summer job. I would take care of the fields during the day. I'd go out and drag the fields. I'd line the fields, and then I'd umpire at night. And then it turned into I was scheduling the umpires for the Little League. It got more serious as I got into college, and I wasn't going to play anywhere past college. And I decided I wanted to go to umpire school. I wanted to get into professional baseball, and I thought that was my career path. So I did that. For some of your listeners may know that you go to an umpire school to get into professional baseball. It's a lot different, Scott, than other sports. Basically, you got to make a choice. Either you're going to go into professional baseball as an official, or you're kind of in the amateur ranks, amateur being high school, college, and whatever. So that's what I wanted to do. And it didn't turn out great for me. It wasn't the career path that I wanted to be on once I gave it a try. Let's just say the lifestyle is brutal, Scott. The lifestyle of a minor league baseball umpire, you basically leave your home in mid-March, early April, and you come back in September or October. And then, granted, this was a long time ago, but the money, you just couldn't live on that kind of money. I kind of felt like I could make a decent living doing something else. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I felt like, this just isn't the lifestyle for me. Being on the road, working a game at 7 o'clock every night, going out and eating dinner and having a cocktail or two and getting in at 2 a.m. and then starting all over the next day. And I'm fortunate that I didn't spend, 10 or 12 years of my life chasing that dream, which a lot of folks do. So the professional baseball dream ended, but came back to St. Louis and started working high school baseball, and then really quickly got into college baseball. So I had some skills, in St. Louis, Scott, we had a phenomenal group of sports officials. I mean, folks that went into the NBA, went into the NFL or Major League Baseball. So I had some mentors that were really, really important to me. And I was given the opportunity at a ridiculously young age, far, far beyond what I probably should have been given. But as you know, when someone opens that door for you, you gotta go get it. You got to take advantage of it. And it worked out really well for me. So that's how it started. With baseball only, really. And then in the officiating community, if you've got some skills, as I'm sure you know now, we always need more officials in every sport. And so my mentor said, "Hey, you could work baseball. We're gonna get you a striped shirt, and you're gonna work football and basketball." And so I did that. So for several years, I was officiating. It wasn't a full-time job ever for me, but it sure took up a lot of my time. So that's how it got started, and I kind of progressed from there.
Yeah, hearing those stories, it's triggering many thoughts of me of how I got started in my career, where there's a lot of sacrifice, there's a lot of travel, you're away from family, the money is not always good. A lot of times you had to volunteer just to be seen and let people know of your aspirations. So I have total empathy with what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Then I also think too, St. Louis, wow, what a hotbed of sports, because I think of, Bob Costas getting his start there as a broadcaster, and some great people, as you mentioned. And then here you are climbing the ranks, and you're building these relationships and starting to network. What was that process like for you to try to meet the right people, to try to kind of navigate your career a little bit?
Guys, man, it is a great question, because in officiating, in the sport of college baseball, but again, so my path was no longer going to be to professional baseball. So I had this passion for the sport, and I had a passion for officiating. And so my goal was to, progress as far in college baseball as I could. And I didn't even, at that time, I didn't know what the College World Series was, to be honest with you. But it was filled with, at the time, we had a local association that handled the assignments. But nowadays, Scott, conferences have a coordinator in charge of officials for virtually every sport. But back in the day, it really was the head coach at the university that said, hey, I need, hey, Billy, go get me umpires for this game, or go get me referees. Now, basketball and football were different. They were farther ahead, but baseball was really lagging behind. So our association did the assigning for the University of Missouri. And that was really my first big break, is that
Wow.
the first big break was a Monday in April, that the University of Kansas was playing at the University of Missouri for a weekend series. They got rained out over the weekend, and they had to push the last game to Monday. And some of the umpires that were assigned over the weekend could not stay until Monday. So they went so far down the roster that they got to me. And I got the opportunity to go work my first Division I baseball game up at Missouri, Kansas at Missouri, and great partners. And so that's where the Division I thing grew for me. Again, not long after that, our association, which I've talked about a couple of times, our association had a relationship with the old Metro Conference. If you remember the Metro Conference back in the day, Florida State, Cincinnati, Louisville, Virginia Tech, Tulane, all of those schools are in the old Metro. Well, the Metro Conference office was in St. Louis at the time. And their basketball coordinator was a man by the name of Dave Phillips. Dave Phillips was an American League baseball umpire who had roots in our association. And they, for their conference baseball tournament, they had been using just basically local officials to wherever that tournament was being hosted. And most of the time it was being hosted at Florida State. They were by far the premier program at the time, right? So they wanted to go to neutral officials. So the association said, we need to put together 6 officials that are traveled to Tallahassee, Florida. And again, they got so far down the list that I got an opportunity. And I ended up working it 12 years in a row.
Wow.
We kept getting invited back. We had a great group. And again, to kind of show you that the coaches at that time were so involved. The head coach at Florida State at the time was a man by the name of Mike Martin. And Mike just retired in the last couple of years, but he was an institution, one of the winningest coaches ever in college baseball. Mike was on the NCAA baseball committee, and it was their charge to identify and recruit officials for the NCAA championship. So somewhere like 19, and I'm going to date myself, so it's going to hurt. 1985, 1986, I'd worked this tournament a few times, and the tournament was over, and we're packing our bags, and our crew's leaving the stadium. And Coach Martin came to say goodbye and thank us for our work. And he kind of pulled me aside, and he said, would you be interested in working a regional? And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I mean, I didn't even really know how impactful that was going to be for me. But I said yes. And then 2 years later, I was in the NCAA tournament, that was 87. And then I worked my first College World Series 4 years later.
Wow.
So
And what a phenomenal climb to be able to be in the right place, the right time, the right set of eyes find you. And again, you jump at that opportunity. That's awesome.
And again, it really was, like I said, and it has since changed. The NCAA has a national program to help identify and select officials in every sport now. But at the time, it was very much coach driven. So I benefited by having a relationship and having worked for the Metro and Coach Martin for a while, and he identified that I was okay.
Obviously.
And it went from there. So I worked the series in 91. That was my first time. And then I worked again in 95. And then the NCAA, like I said, they developed this national program. And in 91 was the first year for that. And they hired a man by the name of John Bible, who was a longtime college baseball umpire and football official in college football. He was the first national coordinator for the NCAA. And then John resigned from that position. And then I was named as the national coordinator for the NCAA in 96.
Wow.
So then like a 9-year span. So again, the door got opened. I was very, very fortunate.
I love hearing that. And what a great opportunity it was. Take us through, what were the emotions for you? Because, coming from like a player's perspective, you're stepping onto the field, the fans, the lights are on, the popcorn's popping. But as an umpire, what are those feelings you're thinking through? What is your mindset? What are you really focusing on? I mean, of course, you want to make the right calls, but is there an adrenaline rush for you as you're stepping out there, knowing that hey, a lot of eyeballs are on me, and there's a lot of things weighing on this?
If there's not adrenaline pumping in you, you shouldn't be doing this.
Oh, great point.
You just shouldn't, because it's so, and again, the higher level that any official attains. Um, I say this all the time: to work at the Division I level or to work professional baseball, the players make the plays.
Yeah.
It's more about the intensity, it's the scrutiny, it's the pressure of being either on television or being in front of 20,000 people, 60, 70, 100,000 people. It's how you manage that's the hard part of the job. Because if you get to that level, I know what a ball is, I know what a strike is, I know what an out is, I know what a safe is. Most of the time I get most of them right. And that's why I say now, as someone who is a coordinator for conferences, is that I almost take that for granted, Scott. I almost take for granted that you are getting your plays right. Now it's about how you manage the situation, how you handle coaches, how you handle players. That's what sets good officials from great officials at this level, at the collegiate level, professional level. Again, it's and again, we're all going to miss plays and pitches, and that's going to happen. But the higher you go, those should be less and less and less.
Right.
But then it just becomes a matter of managing the game situations, managing the tough situations when a coach is furious about maybe something you called or your partner called and they want to vent to you. How do you do that? And every sport, Scott, is a little different. The way that I would manage a baseball game, because a head coach or a manager in baseball can come out on the field and get right up in my grill and yell at me, versus a coach in basketball who's within his coach's box. And so what can be said from a coach to an official is different in every sport, as I know you know. So it's managing that as much as anything else. And again, I went, one of the reasons they told me I didn't get a job in professional baseball is they told me I was too nice.
Interesting.
They told me they thought, and they were right. They were absolutely right. I did not have the experience at 21 years old to go out into minor league baseball and have a manager who's been in the game for 20 years. And they said to me, they're going to chew you up and spit you out. You need to get some more experience. They thought I had the other skills. I had the size and the speed and the knowledge and that stuff, but I didn't have any experience dealing with that. So Scott, I came back to St. Louis, and I was bound and determined I was going to learn how to manage situations. So I went from being kind of soft and weak, if you would, and kind of had coaches and players kind of walking all over me. I went to the exact opposite spectrum. I had more ejections in baseball in those first 2 or 3 years. I was horrible. I went the other way. And then you find a way to get kind of here, and you know how to use whether it be a yellow card in soccer or a technical foul or a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty in football, or if it ends up being an ejection. But you end up learning how to use those tools without being abusive. You know what I'm saying? There are times that that a basketball coach wants to get a technical foul. It's for whatever their purpose is for their team, motivation or whatever. The same thing in baseball. But you've got to be able to know how to manage those things.
See, I love hearing that, because there's always going to be the human element, with an umpire or a referee. And that's why for me as a coach, sometimes there were times when I wanted to get a technical to inspire or motivate the team, but yet I had such good rapport with the referees because I wanted to communicate. And in your perspective, from your lens, You have to be an active listener. You have to have the personality to be able to hear him and communicate effectively to him, but yet also let him know that you've got a job to do and you're going to try to put yourself in a position to make the right call every time, because you too have to answer to, someone who's watching over
Absolutely.
you, whether it's a commissioner or someone assigned to you. So, we're all trying to do what's right, but yet I love how you kind of broke that down for the viewers of the show, David. And I think that human element is something that we're missing so much now, because now there's so much technology in the game. But I guess here's my next question. How do you feel, since you were able to kind of come up in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, turn of the century, social media? With social media today, with the Twitter and everybody that just is able to just unleash, does that help you callous and be like, okay, I'm just focusing on my role, my job, getting the call right?
Scott, first of all, I came off the field, the last time I came off the field was 5 or 6 years ago. And social, I'm of the age, the generation that was not a factor for me
Yeah.
as I came up my career.
Yeah.
I see there being kind of two camps in the officiating world. Some officials pay way too much attention to social media, and that scares me.
Just like a player, just like a player.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The negativity that can come at you, and again, the casual fan doesn't have the rule knowledge, the philosophy of how the league wants their games officiated, the NCAA, the NBA, the G League, whatever it is. The casual fan doesn't understand that. So Billy and Jane over here could be working a basketball game, and they could have gotten every call correct by the way that league wants their game officiated. But the passion of that person sitting there in the red shirt or the blue shirt, because that's their team colors, and then that person goes out and makes personal attacks. So I tell my officials, I ask them not to be on social media. I can't regulate that. I can't mandate that. But my experience, my life experience is it's gonna beat you up if you pay attention to it.
Yeah.
So personally, Scott, that I'm still involved actively as an instant replay supervisor for the Pac-12 in football. So, I mean, every weekend, a Pac-12 game is either decided by or influenced by something that we on the field, our on-field officials, or us in replay make a decision on. I could not care less. I have a Twitter account to keep track of my kids, and some friends, and current events and things like that. I just can't do it. Maybe because I am so passionate about doing a great job, that if I was reading that and people criticizing me that had no idea really if we were right or wrong, I just ignore it.
I appreciate that, because why put that energy onto something that has so much toxicity and so much negativity that could affect your ability
Oh,
to perform correctly? So you know what? Yeah, leave it aside. Focus on your job. Know what's there. Have your meetings. You know what coaches are angry. You know which ones have a hot head. You know what players are may overreact to a certain situation. So I know you guys probably have those kind of briefings and break things down, and then post game, you have the same debriefing on, hey, outstanding job here, or what did you see there? Kind of take us through what that is like when you're meeting with your officials, and here it is, conference championships, and there's lots of money riding because television contracts and whatnot. How do you have those kind of briefings with your officials now to help them stay focused and stay true to what their craft is and their skill sets?
it's a great question. To me, there's a fine line between being prepared and anticipating. So I want to be prepared. If I'm refereeing a game or umpiring a game that you're coaching, let's do an analogy. You're coaching, and the opponent will make basketball the game that we're working, and that this offensive player has a tendency to push off, right?
Yep.
And I've watched enough tape of the teams that are participating. If we're getting to that level, we need to be prepared. We need to know tendencies, whether it be in basketball or football or baseball. Baseball is probably the least of that. But I need to, in football, I need to know if a quarterback is this quarterback scramble a lot? Is it if they scramble a lot, they're going to end up sliding for a first down? You know, which is he left-handed or right-handed? Just basic things like which way are they going to roll? You know, the kicking game in football, all of those things we take in and say, let's just not, we don't want to be surprised by it. I don't want to anticipate that you're going to have an onside kick, but I don't want to be surprised by it.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference there. I don't want to anticipate that guard's going to push off, but I don't want to be surprised when he does it, because if I miss it, it's that bad. The game, as you know, is so fast, right?
Oh, especially with the speed and athleticism of the athletes today. My goodness.
The decision making, this job, what I love, Scott, and I've told you this in person, what I love and why I have such passion for officiating is how hard it is. If you've never been at this level, either as a coach, a player, an official, I don't think you can appreciate how difficult the job is. And that's what I love about it. It is such a challenge to me personally and the people that work with me, you know. So it is so fast. If you're not prepared for whatever that might be, again, you can never script that. You never script out what's going to happen in a game, but just don't be surprised by it. And then the post-game analysis or breakdown is probably more important, in my opinion, because again, it's such a difficult sport. And for the most part, and this is kind of a big generalization here, but I really believe it. Most of us that are successful at this level are very, very demanding of ourselves. Yeah. We're, for the most part, type A's, and we're very demanding of ourselves. So a lot of times, Scott, when we get in a locker room after the game, it's difficult to say, oh, I kicked that, or I should have called that, or I missed that. So as a leader, whether I'm the leader on that crew on the field or floor, or I'm a leader as the coordinator of officials for that conference, it's got to be me that sets that tone to make it safe for everyone else to say. So I always lead. I always go first and say, let's use baseball as an example. This time I'm working first base, and we get in after the game, and the first thing I'm going to say is, what did you guys think of that play in the third, bottom of the third? Did I get that right? Or was he off the base? What did you guys see in that situation? And that just opens the door for someone in a leadership position to share like that, or say, you know what, I was on the plate today, and the first 3 innings, man, I struggled. You know what? And if you're good at this, Scott, if you're really good at this, I don't need you to tell me I'm having a bad day.
There you go.
I'm good at it. I'm the one. You don't need to tell me. I don't, and I don't like admitting this, but how many times have I looked over to a dugout and said, "Hey, I know. Just let me work."
Yeah.
If you let me work, I will get back in the rhythm. I will get, because I'm not going to keep missing pitches for 9 innings. I didn't get to where I am or where I was because I missed pitches all 9 innings, or I missed block charge up every time up and down the floor. Does that make sense?
It does, and you're speaking volumes to me, because I understand there's a transparency there. There's a major piece of accountability that's there, because you're gonna beat yourself up more than what anybody can hold you to, or what some fan may say to you by heckling, because being a professional and being great at your craft. I mean, there's a lot of hours, like you say. There's the preparation and being at the right place and having the right angle, and listening for this, like say you're on first base, seeing the foot hit the bag, or did the ball get in the glove. So just that split hundredth of a second reaction, and you've got to make that call. Yeah, again, there's human element, there's going to be time, but just that accountability piece of those who are at that elite level, who will do that right there speaks volumes.
Yeah, and Scott, the other thing is that transparency, that honesty has got to translate to your relationship with coaches as an official.
That's right.
If I call a pitch that bounces a strike, and you're in the dugout and you're yelling at me, if I look over at you and you say, Scott, it was right down the middle. How much credibility do I have with you and your players the rest of the day? I don't. So I will, again, you can't do that 9, 10, 12 times in a baseball game.
Yeah.
You can't do that 5, 6, 7 times in a basketball game up and down the floor. Yeah, coach, I missed the block charge. But that honesty, because if you're yelling at me or you're discussing a play with me, and I just say, you know what, Scott, I could have gotten a better look at that. I'll work to get a better angle next time.
That's fair. That's fair.
Tell me what you're going to say.
Yep.
That diffuses most, and I'm not doing it to diffuse you.
Right.
I'm doing it to be honest with you and just say, hey, I'm working my tail off out here.
Yeah. Right.
The best I can. And, I think there are, and I don't want to overgeneralize here, but in the coaching community, I think in all sports, there are some that have this conspiratorial mindset.
Yeah.
That everyone is out to get them. It is
the paranoia.
Personal.
Yeah.
It's somehow personal. And I give the example all the time that when a player is sliding into second base and I've got a ball and a base and a foot all at the same time, I do not have time to decide that, oh, well, that's Jimmy's son and that's Billy's. And who am I'm trying to, it just can't be that way. You see it, you react, and you make a call.
There
right?
you go. Yeah.
And so that's, for officials, disagree with my call. Don't question my integrity.
There you go.
Somehow cheating you or cheating your kids. Hey, I'm going to make mistakes.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's great, Dave. And I like how you break it down, because think about it. If it's during a basketball game and you're having that conversation with me, you're still on the court watching the action, trying to get another call right. So you're multitasking as you're taking the time to be professional and yet have a conversation and hear what's being said to you and be able to communicate to that coach at the same time. So I get it. And that's why I had so much respect for the job that you guys have to do, because we coaches, we have those egos where we think, okay, we got to control everything. Well, you know what? Some things are out of your control, but as long as you're doing everything you can, that's all you can do. I mean, let's be honest. You're doing the best you can.
I love that point, Scott, that you all as coaches, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way at all, but you're control freaks.
It's so true, though. It's true. We got to own it.
You're controlling every part of that program, things that the rest of the world doesn't understand. You've got tutors and you've got dietitians and you've got managers and you've got equipment, you've got uniforms, all these things that you all have. And then when the game comes, you have no control. Now it's up to referees. And I hear that from coaches all the time. And that's difficult. So that conversation and the analogy you gave, Scott, about in basketball, and that's why I was a horrible basketball referee. I worked up to the Division II level. I worked a little bit of men's and more women's than anything else, and that's the hardest officiating I ever did. Now I've worked really high level of football. I worked a really high level of baseball. Big games, big crowds, all that stuff, right? That Division II women's basketball, oh my God, Scott, it was so hard to referee.
Wow. I love it. I love it. So we're talking with Dave Yeast, just having an outstanding conversation. We're going one-on-one with the coach. Another sponsor of the show is Sleep Number. Give my guy Todd a call, 801-845-9058. For a weightless, temperature-controlled sleep. He can help you save thousands of dollars. And even though he's just in Sugar House, he can help you anywhere across the nation with a Sleep Number. Proud to have them as a partner of the show. Dave, love this conversation. In baseball, where was your favorite place to umpire? Was it behind the plate?
Always.
Was it first base?
Always.
Was it third base?
Control. Work the plate. Give me. So I'm self-reporting. No, if given the chance, I'd work the plate. It's the challenge, Scott. It's 350 or 400 decisions like that.
Every pitch.
You got a fastball at 95 to 98, and you got a
Wow.
breaking ball at 85 to 87 that's moving 6, 8 inches, something like that. If you're good at this, and as I look at the staff of umpires that I have today, right, in the Pac-12, if there's somebody that doesn't want to work the plate, I really question just their long-term viability. If now, granted, it's also a physical toll. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh,
working the plate on a Friday night in a Division I baseball game, you know, it takes its toll on you. But you know, someone who's dodging that, you know, my back or something, that's not my guy. That's not
yeah.
my guy.
Gotcha. And see, I like that. I mean, you want to be, you know, where it matters most. I mean, and so you are every pitch. I mean, like you say, all those split-second decisions. I think it's gonna be fun. Share with the viewers of the show, Dave, some of the conversations that you would have with a catcher
Oh,
or maybe a pitcher. And I bet some of those the fans would be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know all that was going on. So kind of share some of those interactions.
there's a lot going on, and I will tell you, it's different between in professional baseball. There's not as much interaction. I mean, they're getting paid. They're professional athletes, right? I don't know much about high school baseball anymore, but I'll speak to college baseball. I think it's a fantastic trait or skill to develop a relationship with a catcher if I'm working the plate. Because I've seen, you'll see dugouts ask a catcher, where's that pitch? And he'll just motion the pitches outside, right? And I'll always be honest with them, you know, and I always say, you know, introduce myself. Hey, call me Dave. Where are you from? You know, where'd you go to school? What are you studying? Just before the game, just a little bit. I'm going to call him by his first name. I want him to call me by my first name.
That's respect.
Scott, if you've got a question about a pitch, just ask me. Don't hold the ball on me. Don't hold the ball, please. Catch it and throw it back. But if you've got a question about something, you think I missed something, let's just have a good conversation about it. So that's where it starts. And then as a game at this level progresses, you're going to have close pitches. What worked again for me, first of all, Scott, this is not an officiating, I love to say, is not an exact science. It is not 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen.
Right, right.
It's not. What works for Dave Yeast did not work for Bill or Jill or Frank or whomever, right? But this is what worked for me, developing that relationship. There are some folks that don't want to have that conversation at all. I think they're missing the boat. I really do. I think developing that relationship with the catcher, first of all, they're the ones that are in front of you, between you and a 95-mile-an-hour baseball.
Yeah.
So let's make sure that they're blocking the ball. Let's make sure they're catching the ball, if at all possible, right? Things happen. Things happen. But let's not slide out of the way and let me get chunked, right? So I think that's it. But again, I would do the same thing with them, probably on a more regular basis. You know, ball comes in and it's, you know, they catch it, they kind of stick it, but I've got it a little bit outside. I will call a pitch a ball and I'll say, hey, Scott, I got that ball a little bit out. Okay. And after I do that, I say, you may not always agree with me, but I want you to know what I'm thinking, what I'm seeing, where I'm trying, I mean, the zone is the zone. It's supposed to be right. 17 inches wide, right? Yep. But if and they'll say, do you have that ball down? Yeah, ball's down. I'll agree with them every time. You got that ball up? Yep, pitch is up. So that, I think as much as anything else, is the way to develop that. You know, pitchers, there's not as much. There's not as much. It depends on the level that you're at. Some are super competitive. My favorite pitcher story, and I just have to share this one.
Please.
Well, you will remember a Hall of Fame pitcher from the Cardinals by the name of Bob Gibson.
Oh, wow. Yes.
So Bob Gibson, oddly enough, won his first game in the big leagues the day I was born. Okay. July 30th. Okay. He won his first game. So I grew up in St. Louis. I grew up a Cardinal fan, you know, all the way through, you know, growing up junior high school, 40, 50 games every summer, sitting in the bleachers. Gibson and Brock and Kurt Flood and that era of Cardinals. So I'm living in St. Louis, and the Cardinals are having an old timers game, right? They're having an old timers game. And the Cardinals called our local association, said, we need some people to come out and umpire. So I came out and was working the plate. And Tim McCarver is catching.
Tim, yeah.
So again, this is not a real game. So, and this is kind of a big deal. I'm really having fun with this. So Gibson didn't start the game, but came in to pitch 1 inning. And he he still threw the ball really, really well, by the way. So he throws the pitch that I had outside. I called the pitch a ball, and he just kind of looked at me. Now, granted, remember, this is an old timers game.
Yeah.
Okay. So I called the pitch a ball. He kind of stared at me, took the ball back, and struck the guy out on the next pitch. That was the 3rd out of the inning. He's walking off to the dugout, and he's staring at me. He's like ticked off that I missed. He thinks I missed a pitch in an old timers game.
Oh, the competitive juices.
My bad.
Oh, great story. I love that. See, I love that. Now, how about, let's switch arenas here. Football. If you're on the football field, and again, you broke down about 10 minutes ago talking about all the details, and if you've got a scrambling quarterback, which could lead to some more holding calls, or if a lineman can get too far down the field, you're prepared for those kind of things. But what's one of the toughest calls in football to make, in your opinion?
Oh, I think it's pass interference.
Okay. Yep.
It's either pass interference or holding. I mean, there's holding on every play.
Oh, for sure.
So there's holding on every play. Let's just set that as the baseline.
Yeah.
But from the NCAA, you've got a rule book, right? So the foundation of officiating is a rule book, right? But on top of that, you have to have a philosophy, because the book says you can't hold. Well, if the right tackle is holding over here and it's a sweep to the left, they don't want that call to hold. They want action at what they call the point of attack on a running play. So if it's running off the left tackle, your focus should be here as an official, right? So I would say holding, pass interference, it's all so subjective, Scott.
Oh, of course. Yeah, like a block charge in basketball.
It is. It's so difficult to be consistent with it.
Yeah.
Look at the NFL. Look at what's going on right now with roughing the passer calls. If you or your viewers are paying attention to that at all, there's an epidemic of a quarterback kind of just getting touched. But again, you've got a league office that is setting a mandate that says, this is how we want this game officiated. Yep. And I'm an independent contractor. I'm not an employee. And you're telling me to officiate the game by these rules with these philosophies, then that's how I should be doing it. There's just so much subjectivity in those things. False starts and offsides are so cut and dried, right? For the most part. Can there be some judgment? But that pass interference and holding in football is awfully difficult.
Well, and just like in the NBA, Dave, you see a lot of carry, you see a lot of travel, and I've had a couple referees on my show in the past, and Joey Crawford, a Hall of Fame guy, was on, and I had Derek Stafford recently come on, and they both said a couple of great things, because they said they see it, they're aware of it, but yet if the player doesn't gain a competitive advantage with that certain move, then it's like, say if they're doing it in the backcourt, well, they're not just going to blow it because again, there are mandates, there are certain things that the league, because you've got a product and you've got fans, and so you want the flow of the game, you got to control the flow of the game. So unless there's a competitive advantage being gained, a lot of times it's going to be overseen. But again, it's a split second that's happening so quick. It's a judgment call, and you have to trust your judgment with the years of acumen that you've attained up to that point. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, and that's why Joey is one of the best ever, right? He exemplifies. You have to have a feel for the game.
Yeah.
Any game that you are officiating now. Let's differentiate a little bit, Scott, between a high school, I didn't want to talk about youth, but a high school level contest, a college level contest, and a professional contest. This up here, this is entertainment.
There you go.
Let's be very clear. This is a huge, not that they aren't all, but this
Yep.
is it. High school is educational, right?
I like it. Yep.
Kids are learning how to play the game and they're trying to get to the next level, right? So there's that piece. So you're right. You don't want game interrupters. You don't want unnecessary things called until someone's gaining an advantage, an unfair advantage. Your terminology is exactly what we use. So right, if he's carrying the ball in the backcourt versus carrying the ball when he does a crossover, right? I'm sure, again, not knowing the vernacular as well in basketball, but I'm sure that's where they would differentiate.
Yeah.
Same thing for us.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same. It's in baseball. College baseball has had a safety rule. In the old days, a runner was sliding into second base. As long as they could reach the base, they could take out the middle infielder. All right.
Yeah.
And in those days, also the middle infielders really didn't even have to touch second base on a double play, right? You remember those?
Oh, well,
yeah. That's all changed now. Technology has changed that, having to touch the base, but that safety rule as well. So you've got to be able to understand the spirit and the intent, as well as the actual words in the rule book as well. And it's
well said.
Those are intricacies, Scott, that again, I talked about going from a good official to a great official, and that being the people management skills, right? But also not being Joe Rulebook, because I've got umpires that, I mean, they know the rule, they're going to enforce it the same every single time without fail. They've got to have a feel for it. They've got to let the game come to them rather than going to get it. And that's hard to teach, Scott.
Yeah, that's big time what you're talking about right there. Just having your finger on the pulse, knowing the situation, understanding, game situations and the flow of the game. So I love hearing you say that, because I don't think you could put it any better than what you just shared with the viewers right there. And I think that's wonderful. And I know you're still working, and I'll be kind of delicate on how we ask the question, but again, try to educate the viewers of the show.
Sure.
What changes would you like to see in baseball? Because you always hear people, oh, the game's 4 hours and we need to speed up the game, and they're reviewing these plays and the pitch. What would you like to see to help expedite the product, to keep it fan friendly?
Yeah, and so I'm old school, Scott. I love the game. I can I can't watch sports on TV anymore, other than if we're sitting watching the Super Bowl, I can do it.
Yeah.
But that's really about it. I can't watch anymore because once, I don't know, is that the same for you? You've coached it. Can you sit and watch anymore? Is it hard for you?
Well, I watch it differently. Now, if I go to a game with my wife, she's watching the crowd and she's looking at their hair or what they've got on, and then it's more of a social thing. For me, I'm strategically trying to break it down. What is that coach trying to do? What are they trying to accomplish? What is the game plan? What adjustments are being made? So for me, I'm looking at it totally different. And I'm sure you as a referee, it's the same for you. And then you're going to have a bunch of people asking you questions. Dave, what'd you think? What'd you see?
Yeah.
Was that right? Was that wrong? And that's got to be, it's like, I just want to enjoy the game.
But it's hard, Scott. I mean, it's exactly the same. Sitting and watching a game anymore. I do think that baseball, I think the pace of the game has got to, if it's going to maintain popularity, the pace, and of course, Major League Baseball is going to a clock. Next season, we've had that clock for the last 5 or 6 years. It absolutely speeds up the game. There's no question. The pace is faster.
Now you're talking about like the clock on the pitchers between pitches, how much time he has to make that next pitch.
Right. So ours is 20 seconds in college baseball. The big leagues next year will be 18 seconds. They get the ball back from the catcher. The clock starts. They must begin their delivery within 18 seconds. So there's a few exceptions, but for the most part, that's the way it's going to be. So that's a big change. I am kind of old school. I am not a big fan of the bat tossing
Oh,
The
yeah.
trumpets and
The
the bugle,
showmanship.
but
We'll call it showmanship.
that's just me being old school, Scott.
Yeah, yeah,
That doesn't affect the game. I think the way the game is played at the big league level right now is really solid. I think that it's difficult for them. Again, it's entertainment.
yep,
Remember, that's entertainment. So
yep.
I hope I don't anger any of your fans, but I'm not a big soccer guy.
Yeah.
So a 1-0 soccer game is tough for me.
Yeah, it's too
Whereas
slow.
it's pretty darn slow.
Yeah,
So baseball obviously has made adjustments over time to make sure there's enough offense in the game without it being,
yep.
a home run derby, right? So that's that balance, and I just think as long as baseball continues to do that, that's what's important, to have a good balance between offense and defense.
I love
Because
it.
a 1-0 baseball game, some people appreciate that. I think the casual fan, the fan that baseball is trying to reach, a younger demographic that is so accustomed to video games and more action sports. I think that's where baseball has lost a lot of viewership. We've lost a lot of kids in the inner city that don't come up playing baseball anymore. That's a big problem in baseball. But the second thing we're losing is that kid who's a gamer. And I don't mean that in a derogatory term at all,
Nope, nope.
but a kid who is so involved in active shooter games or car chasing and things like that. The pace of a baseball game could not be more drastically different than that.
Yeah.
So
For
I
them,
think
it's like watching golf, just too slow. They're hard to get into because they're used to fast action, fast pace. Yeah,
exactly.
I love that. Dave, this has been a wonderful conversation. I can't believe we're already, almost 50 minutes into it. But if there's a young official out there right now or a young referee, what advice would you give them to get started to, hopefully, fulfill their aspirations?
Well, thanks for asking that, because I would have slipped it in somehow, some way. Um, if I'm ever given a forum to speak to a group, one of the things that I have to talk about is the shortage of officials. And it's more dramatic the last 5 to 7 years than it's ever been. We are canceling high school level sporting events
Oh,
all over the country. We are moving high school football games from Friday nights to Saturdays or Thursdays because of a lack of officials. So if I challenge all of the people that work for me in baseball every year, I challenge them to find one person. Just go find one person in your circle of influence. Maybe it's someone you work with, maybe it's a cousin, a nephew, or a niece, or someone that has an affinity for sports. Because I am so lucky, Scott, that I found officiating, because I wasn't going to be a player. I was never smart enough to be a coach. So officiating was going to be it for me. But once I get you into officiating, I need you to be patient, because again, we're a society that's the
it's a microwave society. We want it now.
it is, and we find that about 50% of people who start officiating now, 50% quit after 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a horrible number, because if I can get you into a uniform and get you an equipment, and I can't get you past 3 years, man, I've wasted so much energy and capital. But again, a lot of it is, they think they should move up faster than they do. Or the biggest factor that in losing officials is fan, coach, and parent behavior. We do exit surveys. Almost every high school association across the country does exit surveys when people leave officiating. And that's by far the number one thing. But I will tell you that as a 15-year-old kid, right, in St. Louis, Missouri, who was umpiring 7-year-old kids, right, to, please take this the right way, 2 College World Series, Olympic Games, national championships in football, Hall of Fame stuff, all of that stuff. If you would have told me all of Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Cuba, Canada, Mexico, Italy, all the places that sports has taken me, Scott, that it's out there. I mean, you got to work at it. You got to have some ability. But the opportunities to have this second career, the secondary income is nice. It doesn't doesn't pay all the bills, but it's nice. That's a nice side piece to it. But the bottom line, Scott, is that the friendships that I've developed over the years that I've done this, those are the people that I've friends. I have very few friends here other than you and Kim. I have very few friends here in this area because all of my friends are all over the United States from officiating around the world. So it's a phenomenal hobby. It keeps you involved in a sport that you love.
Awesome.
And
Dave,
that's the
I,
bottom line.
I love that. I mean, and when you're speaking, I hear the passion, I hear the purpose, but I also hear for love of the game when
Oh,
you share that. And Dave, I can't thank you enough for sharing your time, with our viewers today to kind of help educate them and bring awareness to kind of like, what you see through your lens of being in the position because, come on, a distinguished service award, college baseball Hall of Fame, amateur baseball Hall of Fame. We're hearing it from one of the best. So I can't thank you enough for your time and sharing that with our viewers today, my friend.
thank you, Scott. I appreciate it, man.
Listen, can't wait to see you again soon, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, again, you've been watching the Coach Scott Field Show. This is Dave Yeast, and I'm going to tell you what, to be able to be educated, it's compelling, it's inspiring, it's motivating, one of the best of the best. And thank you so much for sharing your time, brother.
Thank you.
God bless, man.
You too.